Darksiders 2's coming was proclaimed by THQ earlier last year after the original Darksiders was a sleeper hit with gamers. With its incredible but not cheesy story about the end of the world, angels vs demons, and gameplay taken from other successful franchises such as The Legend of Zelda and God of War, fans were clamouring for a sequel after the first game ended on such a cliffhanger. It was no surprise that THQ would decide to do a sequel, but did they bite off more than they could chew, or is this second outing for Darksiders a masterpiece?
There can be no life without order. Good, evil, darkness, light. There must be balance in the universe. Let us now cast our gaze to one amongst the four. Not War, who lies chained at the Council's feet, professing his innocence, but one who would save his brother above all else.
In the original Darksiders, you play as War, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, who was summoned to Earth and started the end war between demons, angels and humanity too early and causing the extermination of humanity. In Darksiders 2, you take the role of one of the remaining horsemen of the apocalypse, Death. He sets out to clear his brother's name by restoring humanity, but it's never that simple in the Darksider universe, and a conspiracy is taking place. Corruption. Corruption has taken hold of the different realms that Death travels through, blocking his path at every turn by turning the environment and its descendants against you. You will need all the help you can get to restore humanity. However, unlike some of the interesting characters that you met in the original Darksiders, Death encounters generic NPCs who feel like nothing more than MMO quest givers. The feeling of this also affects the main character of Death, who gets frustrated and threatens them with pain and destruction, and he comes across more weak and not the incarnation of Death story-wise. The story feels overall generic as well, which is a shame since War in the original game had a goal: to find out what the hell happened and why he was betrayed. In his endeavour, he was assisted and taunted by the Watcher, voiced by the excellent Mark Hamill. Death's only companion in Darksiders 2 is a crow called Dust, who can't speak and just flies around the scenery and points the game in a general direction to go. If games are going to have companions, they need to be like the Navi from Legend of Zelda games, pointing the player in the right direction and telling them their goals. The Watcher was a great companion story-wise. He was a shackle for War and weakened his abilities, but also could kill War if he didn't do what he wanted. Dust feels like he was only there since the THQ designers needed to give Death some kind of companion. The storytelling in Darksiders 2 fails to live up to the original and unfortunately hurts the franchise as a whole. The ending is fairly disappointing since both Darksiders games are happening at the same time, and as such end on the same ending with no expanding of the overall end of story and what the main threat of the third game is.
You can come out now, Lilith.
Do you blame me for hiding? You are Death. Where you ride, no one is safe. Not even your mother.
The Darksiders universe has now expanded from the post-apocalyptic world of Earth into multi-planes and worlds of Darksiders. Death will travel through these incredible massive worlds, finding a way to restore humanity by slicing and dicing his way through monsters and exploring dungeons like in the original Darksiders. However, each of these worlds are structured like an MMO game with towns, multiple dungeons and massive landscapes to travel between each of the areas. There's also a lot of optional backtracking a player can make to find more treasures when he unlocks more gear, such as the grappling hook. Death's main goal is to restore humanity, but corruption blocks his path and the various NPCs will help him break down these barriers once Death helps them. An example of this is Death will be sent out to find 3 items for one NPC. This will unlock a door, and then another 3 items will be needed to unlock the next door, and then another 3 items will be needed to unlock the next door. This pattern repeats a lot in this game, and there will even be points when an NPC wants 3 other NPCs to help him, but one of these NPCs will only help you when you receive 3 items for him. 3 is the magical number for Darksiders, it seems. The dungeons are generally the highlight of Darksiders 2 with its clever Zelda-esque dungeon themes, from the classic water dungeon where you have to change the water flow, to dungeons where you need to travel back and forth through time to open new pathways. The MMO comparisons continue here in the form of equipment. Every monster in the world has a chance to drop gear that Death can equip, and they all come with randomised stats. This gives the player a chance to customise Death as they like and their playstyle. Death also levels up like in MMOs and gains new talents and abilities to spend in 2 different tech trees, melee and caster. There's a robust customising system for a single player game. However, you will not need to focus on it too much when playing on normal difficulty, and there doesn't seem to be many restrictions to specking death in both the trees. One of the other things Darksiders does well is torture achievement junkies. There are hundreds of hidden collectibles in the game, ranging from little colour stones you need to shoot in the world to finding pages of the Book of Death. However, you won't need these to complete the game, and it's just a bonus for people who want to get everything out of the game. The worlds are quite massive as well, and unlike the first Darksiders, Death actually starts off with his horse. It will get to the point where you will unlock fast travel to locations, and such the horse doesn't see much play unless backtracking. You even have the ability to fast travel out of dungeons, repurchase potions from the shop, and then fast travel back to the location where you left off in the dungeon. This is helpful for players struggling with combat, but can take away from the challenge of the game.
Let me speak to the Lord of Bones, and I will spare your champion. And perhaps you as well, Chancellor.
You cannot slay that which is already dead.
Forget what I said about sparing you, doorkeeper.
In the original Darksiders, War was a mighty warrior who was slow, heavy and powerful. Death is a lot more fragile and can't block and counter like his beefier brother, and is more about dodging attacks and exploiting the opponent's openings. This develops into a fast-paced combat similar to Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. With this being the main focus of the game, the controls are fast and responsive, and you will have a full control of Death. You will face various enemies from different worlds, ranging from the slow stone golems, strong and weirdly attacks, to angelic aerial raids and explosive demons who teleport around the scenery. Since Death is always leveling up, the game keeps you on equal footing with the enemies by increasing their level and stats, and making you not all powerful or a weakling either. You can travel back to previous areas though if you want to take revenge on particular monsters. The bosses in Darksiders 2 on the other hand are a massive letdown. They are quite a sight to behold, but they all come down to being massive meat shields with no weak points to exploit, and they're more about attacking them when there is an opening. The final boss in the game is a one-phase fight as well, where all you need to do is avoid a free swing attack and then counter. That is it. It was so disappointing that it ruined the game for me. I was saying in my head when it happened, that can't be it surely, there must be another phase. Nope, end cutscene, go. There is however an arena-like section of the game for people who bought the game brand new, called the Crucible. This is the most fun part of the combat, where it throws high level enemies at you with a combination of monsters that you don't encounter in the main story. You can be facing too many bosses at the same time with 10 minions assisting them. This is where the combat shines and will test players to their limits. However, with a lackluster camera and the lock-on system, it is quite poor, and it's hard to focus on particular targets or see enemies sneaking up behind you, giving you a fraction of a second to dodge. This can cause some unexpected deaths. Combat is simple to pick up. One button is your Cypher Tech, the other is your secondary weapon. You can purchase new combos that you can learn, but the game doesn't really explain how to perform these combos except through a combo menu. In the original Darksiders, a video would actually play to show you what the combo is before you purchased it. You are left to guess and can be frustrating really. There are also a range of dungeons that will challenge your brain with simple block pushing puzzles to time travelling portal jumping dungeons. There is an element of platforming as well, very similar to the Prince of Persia games, where you will be wall jumping and performing acrobats around the environment. However, the final dungeon in Darksiders 2 is amazingly short and only consists of 2 rooms. It was one of the shortest, and it's the only time you get to use a new ability in the game storyline that it feels like a waste. Hopefully the DLC dungeons that are coming with the pre-order packs will be longer and more challenging.
I am a maker, older than even the Charred Council. These hands have laid the foundations for many worlds.
Darksiders 2 is a beautiful, breathtaking game. With its comic book art styles, the worlds feel like they've come straight out of the concept art. Each of these worlds could very easily be converted into a World of Warcraft landmass. From the green lush landscapes of the Maker Plane, all the way to the floating Eye Fortress being dragged around the Undead Realm by 2 gigantic dragon eels. Music for the game is enjoyable and sets the mood perfectly, and the voice acting is top notch, but lacks emotion because of the poorly written script, and you'll skip dialogue a lot of the time. There are also issues with the sound cutting out during combat and cutscenes.
And so you have come, bearing your sin like a badge of honor. What do you seek, Pale Rider?
The return of mankind.
Darksiders 2 was an ambitious sequel for THQ to take on. It has managed to expand the Darksiders universe further by exploring the universe and the mythos. However, it has left a lot of unanswered questions, and Death's journey seems to be a tale that wasn't needed telling. But with its MMO-esque mechanics and its fast-paced action gameplay, you can't go wrong with this 20+ hour game. You really do get a grand journey for your money. THQ will hopefully carry on this tale of the Horsemans. Just please, not another prequel.